Dust rose lazily behind Colt Merrigan's horse as he rode, deeper into the canyon lands where the Apache people held ancient claim. He had no intention of trespassing, but a stubborn steer from his herd had wandered off, and he followed its tracks across the rocky ground without noticing he had crossed the invisible border. The late afternoon sun was sinking, painting the cliffs in shimmering bands of gold and amber, and Colt was tired, hungry, and thinking more about supper than territory lines. When he finally located the runaway steer near a narrow stream, he dismounted for a moment of rest. As he knelt to scoop a drink of cold water into his hands, something caught his eye beneath the surface, a glint, sharp and unmistakable. He frowned, reached deeper into the streambed, and lifted a smooth, heavy nugget, gold, pure as firelight. His pulse quickened, and he looked around as if expecting someone to leap from the shadows and claim it from his grasp. As he moved aside a few stones with trembling fingers, he saw more pieces nestled beneath the water. It wasn't just a stray nugget. It was the beginning of a vein, perhaps even a hidden fortune capable of changing his entire life. Colt imagined the possibilities, paying off every debt that threatened his ranch, buying fresh cattle, maybe even expanding his land. Riches like this didn't come along for men like him, men who spent day and night fighting drought, sickness, and endless work. Yet even as the dreams flickered through his mind, another thought came stronger. This land was not his. He had no right to take a single stone from it. As he stood there, torn between need and morality, he heard soft footsteps behind him. Turning, he saw an elderly Apache man watching him carefully, not with anger, but with a firm, unreadable expression. Colt could have hidden the gold, claimed ignorance, or fled. Instead, he slowly placed the nugget back into the stream, letting the current wash over it again. He lifted his empty hands to show he meant no harm. "This belongs to your people," he said quietly. The old man studied him for a long, heavy moment before nodding once, a gesture of respect more powerful than words. Colt mounted his horse and left the canyon without looking back at the shining water. The gold stayed where it belonged, and Colt returned to his simple life, never knowing that the choice he made in that quiet canyon would echo back to him 13 years later in a way he could never imagine. 13 long years had settled on Colt, Merrigan's shoulders like dust on an old saddle, shaping him into a man weathered but unbroken. His ranch had survived droughts that cracked the earth, storms that tore shingles from his roof, and lean winters that starved both cattle and men. Still, Colt endured, working sun-up to sundown with the quiet grit of someone who expected little from life except what his own hands could earn. Folks in town respected him, though they whispered that he kept too much to himself. He had no wife, no children, only a loyal horse and a stretch of stubborn land that he fought to keep alive. But that summer, trouble didn't come from nature, it came riding in with a hard-eyed group of claim jumpers pushed south from depleted mining camps. Their leader claimed Colt's ranch sat on a silver deposit they had traced across the hills, and they wanted it. Colt told them plainly the land was his and always would be, but they returned after sundown, firing shots into the dirt and threatening to burn him out if he didn't surrender the property. Colt barred the doors and readied his rifle, but he knew he was badly outnumbered. The first flames licked at the far side of his barn, illuminating the night with an angry orange glow. Shadows darted past his windows as the claim jumpers advanced, shouting curses and promises of what they intended to do with his land once he was gone. Colt took careful shots, hitting enough dirt near their boots to keep them cautious, but he was running low on ammunition, and there were too many of them to hold off until sunrise. As smoke thickened and the barn crackled loudly, Colt accepted that his final stand might be inside the small cabin he had built with his own hands. Then suddenly piercing whistles cut through the chaos, high, sharp and echoing across the open land. Apache calls. Before Colt could make sense of it, shadows moved with uncanny precision around the claim jumpers. Arrows thudded into the ground at their feet. Rifles barked from the ridge above, and panic spread among the attackers. They scrambled for their horses, fleeing into the night as if chased by spirits. When silence finally returned, an elderly Apache stepped from the darkness, the same man Colt had met beside the stream 13 years ago. He looked at Colt with calm eyes and said, "You honored our land. Tonight we honor you." Colt lowered his rifle, overwhelmed by a debt he had never known existed. Morning light spilled softly across the ranch as Colt Merrigan saddled his horse. Still shaken by the events of the night before, the Apache warriors remained nearby, silent and composed, as though guarding the land were as natural as breathing. Colt brewed coffee over a small fire, and when the elder approached, the same man whose eyes had watched him return the gold 13 years earlier, Colt handed him a tin cup without a word. Gratitude felt too small for what had happened. They drank quietly, the old man's expression calm, carrying the gravity of someone who weighed time differently than most. When Colt finally asked why they risked themselves for him, the elder said, "Because a man who respects the land becomes part of it. Your choice long ago did not pass from memory." Colt absorbed the words slowly, unsure what reply could match such simple, heavy truth. After checking the barn damage and confirming the claim jumpers were gone for good, the elder invited Colt to ride with him. Something unspoken pulled Colt toward the invitation, and together they headed toward the canyon where the gold still slept beneath the shallow stream. The path felt unchanged despite the years, wind whispering through the stones, sunlight dancing off the cliffs like drifting fire. When they reached the stream, the same glimmer of gold winked up from beneath the water as though it had been waiting all along. Colt gazed at it with a strange mix of familiarity and distance, as though staring at an alternate version of his past. The elder stepped beside him and said, "The tribe is moving north. We cannot guard this place anymore, but we remember you left this gold untouched, so we offer you our blessing. You may use this land now, not out of greed, but out of life." Colt felt the weight of the moment settle deep into his chest. He had never imagined receiving permission, let alone a blessing. After a long silence, he promised he would treat the canyon with honor. He would take what he needed, no more, and protect the rest as if it was sacred ground. Over the following years, Colt used only enough gold to rebuild his ranch, hire honest hands, and supply the Apache families on their long journey north. He never became rich, and he never wanted to. What he gained was something rarer, a bond carved in mutual respect, a legacy built on a moment of restraint, and a canyon that remained untouched except by wind, water, and memory. The gold stayed in the land, the honor stayed in Colt,